Hey, Sean. I've wanted to make this video for a while. For a couple years, this has been on my list of how do I come up with my ideas for all my YouTube videos. I've made hundreds of YouTube videos on this channel over the years. How do I come up with my ideas? And my method is pretty simple, but it wasn't until very recently that I learned that my method for coming up with video ideas for my YouTube channel is the same method that physicists have used to win the Nobel Prize. It has been used to create inventions that have changed the world, to cure diseases, and I think it was used in every single episode of House MD. It is a tried and true method, and apparently I've been squandering it on how to come up with ideas for YouTube videos. But I'll explain how I learned that this is bigger than that and how I'm applying it to other things and how you can use it to come up with YouTube video ideas or to solve whatever problems you might have or things you're trying to find answers to. The key is this. I know that I'm going to make YouTube videos, and that's it. That's the whole method. I'm aware that I'm going to make YouTube videos. Several years ago, I decided that I wanted to make more YouTube videos. I committed to it. So I sat down, I opened up a note on my notes app and I said, YouTube video ideas. This is still the same note I use to this day. But what I did then was wrong. And I sat down and I'm like, okay, I need to come up with 10 ideas for YouTube videos. Okay. I could do camera settings for my Sony a7S III. I could do how to do 3-point lighting or best position for a microphone or best microphones. I can come up with ideas, but they're never that exciting. They're never that inspired. And when we're trying to come up with some really good solutions, it's really hard to just sit down and figure one out. We need to be inspired by something. So what happened was later that day, I was talking to somebody that I was working with and we were talking about our day rates. And afterwards I was like, man, that whole conversation we just had about our day rates, that would be a pretty good YouTube video. And then a couple days later, I'm reading something. I'm like struck by something I was reading. I'm like, that would be a really good YouTube video too. And so I started finding inspiration, not from sitting down and looking at YouTube videos and trying to brainstorm, but I would be somewhere doing something unrelated, having a conversation, cooking something, watching something, maybe playing Frisbee, whatever, something unrelated. And then it would occur to me like, oh, this is a good idea for a YouTube video. And at first I was keeping my list. I was checking it every couple days and just reminding myself, because if you're aware that you want to solve something or you're open to solutions to something, you'll be able to learn anything that you learn, anything that strikes you, any new information, and you'll be able to sort of run it back past what you're working on. And at first, it's a very active process with my list, but after a while, it's become just the habit of, as I go about anything that I encounter that excites me, I'm like, could this be a YouTube video? Yeah. Or no, but I'm thinking about it. And I'm always aware of it. And that is how you turn inspiration that you're going to find in the world into your idea. But there's a big key, which I'm going to do a YouTube thing and save for the very end. So the power of this method didn't really occur to me until I started reading the book Building a Second Brain by Tiago Forte. And in it, he talks about physicist Richard Feynman, who won the Nobel Prize. And Richard maintained this list of, he called his 12 favorite problems or worthwhile problems worth solving. And they were just 12 things in his life and in his work that he was always trying to figure out. But by writing them down, by being aware of them and addressing them and acknowledging them, as he goes through his life, any little thing might be the inspiration to solve one of these problems. Some new research he reads might unlock something. And so when he saw new information, he would run it past his list. And I'll read this quote from him because it sort of explains it pretty well. This is, I think, in a letter he was writing to a student. You have to keep a dozen of your favorite problems constantly present in your mind, although by and large they will lay in a dormant state. Every time you hear a new trick or a new result, test it against each of your 12 problems to see whether it helps. Once in a while, there will be a hit and people will say, how did he do it? He must be a genius. And that's the whole thing. It's not about being able to sit down and power through with brute force to figure out the best solution to something. It's being aware that you're trying to solve something and then being able to apply the lessons that you take from all over your life, from wherever you find inspiration, even very unrelated to your field, and solve that problem. And I think famously what Feynman realized was somebody threw a plate in a dining hall, and the way it rotated, he thought it was weird, and he used that to unlock this physics problem he was trying to solve about wobble versus revolution or something, and won the Nobel Prize for that. But it was because he was looking for that solution, and he knew he was looking for that solution, and something happened which he was able to say, does that help me find a solution? So I've been using this to come up with ideas for YouTube videos for the past several years, but with some clarification and a little guidance from Tiago Forte's book, I'm starting to apply this to other areas of my life. And by addressing and acknowledging a number of things that I'm looking for solutions to, I'm able to start taking things that find me when I'm cooking or cleaning or driving or working or having a conversation with someone or watching something or reading something. It can be anything. And if something strikes me as like, oh, that's interesting, I can quickly pull up my list of things that I'm trying to think about and say, does it help with this? No. Does it help with this? Oh, maybe. Does it help with this? And maybe it helps, or maybe it helps me jump to the next idea. But it's not something that you can do backwards. It's not something you could just sit down and brute force your way to a solution to say, hey, I want to come up with a life-changing device. Okay, It's not, you're not going to find that perfect inspiration, but if you know that you want to do something like that, as you go through life, you'll be able to find inspiration that might solve what you're looking for. And it's also not something that, even if you write it down, you can think back to like, hey, what were the 20 most impactful things that I realized in the past few months? You can't do it that way. It has to be written down first, and then you come back to it. So the sooner you write these things down, the sooner you can actively start finding the inspiration to find the solutions for these things. So in closing, I'm going to share a few of the problems that I'm working on. And problems is a generalized term for what we're talking about, but the problems that I'm working on, and then sort of the key to how to do this perfectly. And the 3 problems I'll share are: 1, I'm always looking for how can I use my hobbies and my interests to make more money, especially recurring revenue, while I sleep. And there's been things lately where I've been involved in music, or I've heard something, I'm like, I should do some stock music or something like that. Like, I've been enjoying making music. I've got these tracks, but I don't put them anywhere. So there's things like that. I'm also starting to publish a couple little books that I've been inspired by, where I saw another YouTuber make a book, and I made a little booklet, and I may sell that. So by being open to how can I make money from my hobbies and interests, I can start to see inspiration from other people, and maybe there's a solution there for me that's going to fit. 2, how can I be a better father? And this could be its own whole video, but by just being aware that I'm always trying to get better at being a father, it opens me up to things that I see other parents do, but also things that I read, activities, like stuff, hobbies that exist, and I can start to say, is that something that I could do with my son and be a better father, create a better experience, a learning moment for them? And by being open to that, I can start to gather this information and plug it into what I'm trying to find solutions for. And lastly, how can I have large clients pursue me without me doing anything? And these are $1 million questions. If I could solve this, then maybe I deserve a Nobel Prize in small creative business philosophy, if that exists. But by being open to that, I can start to see things that other people do and piece together my solution for finding a way to accomplish these things and grow my business and be a better dad and make money from my hobbies and interests. And by writing them down, that's the first step. But the key is, and this is the absolute key, write them down, read through them a few times a week. It'll become habit after a while, but it's important to actively revisit them. But when the ideas start to pour in, you have to write those ideas down. Because even if it's not apparent to you how something that you saw in traffic or a conversation that you had, it was interesting enough to remember. And if it doesn't look like it fits to any of your problems, still write it down. Write it down in the note below your problems, because that may be something that you can plug in later. And if you don't record these epiphanies that you have and these moments of inspiration that you have, then they'll be gone when your problems change and you might want to revisit them. So anything profound like that, take a second to jot it down, to run it past your current list, because it may solve a problem you currently have, or may be useful for something you put on the list in the future. That's all I got. Thank you so much for watching. I sincerely appreciate it. Have a great day or night or whatever, wherever. See you later. Bye.